Hi, everyone. I am so honored to be here with you. I'm Betsy Myers, and I'm a leadership expert who's spent the majority of my career working on women's issues, women's advancement, women's empowerment. Today, we are talking about a really important concept issue that I've been thinking about for a really long time. What often gets in the way of women's advancement is an overlooked aspect of women's leadership and relationship with worthiness. It's the root cause of many other issues, such as lack of confidence, fear of taking risks, setting boundaries, or choosing unhealthy relationships. For whatever reason, women feel they must work harder, contribute more of their share at home to prove their worth. I myself have, on this journey of my own career, have found myself in times when I took on more work than I should have to prove my worth. Took on big projects when I knew that I wasn't going to be able to manage them, to say yes to people please. I found myself in relationships where I was over functioning and ended up paying all the bills to earn that love. And so I myself, as we walk into this conversation with worthiness, have been on my own journey with worthiness and trying to understand when I was in behaviors of unworthy and when I was reaching for behaviors of worthy. So first slide, please. I find this statistic really fascinating and alarming at the same time. In the United States today, polls report that most of the 180 million women between the ages of 20 and 64 face an invisible and insidious pandemic of unworthiness. And although in studies, men have the same feelings, for various reasons, women are twice as likely to have these feelings of unworthiness. And the deeply rooted sense of being good enough or not good enough is found even in the most successful women. Next slide, please. I love this quote from Oprah Winfrey because what we're doing today on this panel conversation is, and as she wrote, we're going to be exploring this, but she wrote, unconscious feelings of unworthiness appear in everything you do and don't do. That's where the risk taking and all of these experiences are your life's way of urging you to leave the past behind and make yourself whole. Every choice you make is a chance to pave your own road. And so today what we're going to be talking about is the strategies. Everyone has those moments of feeling unworthy. We all can look back on our careers, and as I was sharing with a few moments where we didn't raise our hand, didn't go for that job, tolerated a relationship that was unworthy of us. We all had those experiences. But today we want to look at ways to move out of unworthy and into worthiness. We've created a worthy meter. Next slide, please. To share with you, this is a guide for all of us in below the line. So we're either somewhere in the worthiness of each of us. We are on the line. There's a line of worthiness. And below behaviors are when we are in behaviors or thinking around when we're being unworthy. And some of the things we do, we hustle. And that's where I always fell into, was the hustling. I had to prove my value. We overfunction, we try to earn love, etc. Or we numb ourselves to escape these feelings of unworthiness. And we get into some of the addictive behaviors or pathologically forgiving or procrastinating, or we compare ourselves to others. And that's where we fall into areas of gossip or blaming or envy, like that. And so that's what we know we're below the line behaviors, and we're kind of, in that feelings of unworthiness, and it can be unconscious, by the way. And so where we really want to go today, and we're so excited about, is this conversation about how do we reach for behaviors of worthiness. Leadership, at the end of the day, the most important aspect of leadership is self-knowledge. Who am I? And as women, what are the things we can control in our life? It's us, right? And so my good friend, Rebecca Shambar, wrote a book about women's leadership, and it's called, It's Not About the Glass Ceiling, It's a Sticky Floor. So yes, there's still a glass ceiling. Yes, have we made progress? We made a lot of progress, but we still have a ways to go. But what's the only thing we can control? Which is ourselves. So what are the sticky, we have to start with that, right? So what are the sticky behaviors that I'm doing that get stuck in my way? And so how do we bring awareness to the behaviors of our life, both good and bad, and how do we reach for behaviors that help us step into our best selves and shatter that unworthiness, which is mostly and always beliefs that aren't true. And so for me, for example, the overfunction would be looking up into confidence, the bucket, right? Which is, how do I reach for behaviors of setting boundaries, saying no, right? And so these are guides. And when we know we're in self-worth, we look above the line to authenticity, being our true self, right? Validating our feelings, embracing ourself and caring for ourself, doing the things that nourish our lives. And of course, confidence. I empower myself by setting boundaries, by taking risks, by speaking up when you're in that meeting and you have something to say. We've all been there. I got something important to say, but I'm not sure I have the confidence to say it. So that gives you a little bit of the worthy meter. We're going to give you this after, so you'll have it as a guide as you explore your own worthy behaviors. But now we're going to move to the panel, which I'm really excited about. Next slide, please. And so we have 4 incredible panelists that are part of the EXP family. And Susie Truax, Nuar Marzouk, Nakia Evans, and Kembri Mooney. Each of them is going to share their stories about worthiness and kind of, most importantly, their strategies of how they have dealt with their feelings of unworthiness, the imposter syndrome, feelings about bad beliefs that aren't true, that kind of thing. So let's go first. Susie, should we start with you?
Oh, sure. Why not?
Yeah. Let's start with you. And I just want to throw the first question to you, which is, you all are sitting in, although there's more women in real estate, which I think is such a funny thing, right? There's more women realtors. We still see real estate as a male-dominated field. Right. And so as all of you 4 fabulously successful women have dealing in this male-dominated industry like real estate, how have you personally dealt with feelings of imposter syndrome or feelings of self-doubt or feelings of unworthiness? How have you dealt with those feelings, and what are the strategies that you put in your life to get to the place you are today?
Well, oh my goodness, when you talk about imposter syndrome, there I was in 2017, going from being a team leader multiple times over, serving on boards that were nonprofits, to all of a sudden I'm coming on the board of EXP, the board of directors of EXP, the first female internal director. Guess what? No guidebook. Like, yes, I'm going to do this because I'm up for the challenge, but me and I think 7 guys at the time. So I think the strategy that I used, and I encourage all women, when you're experiencing that moment of, what am I doing? Excuse me, what am I doing here? You're meant to be there, number 1. Number 2, just educate yourself. You're in a new situation. You didn't really know how to be a mom when you became a mom, or you didn't know how to be a driver the first time you drove the car by yourself, really. And this is all new stuff that you can educate yourself around. And so, that's the strategy I used. And then also find an ally, find someone you can trust who's at or above the level that you're trying to get comfortable with. For me, a fellow board member who was a kind soul, took me under his wing to show me the way. And it was obviously it was a male. So I think that education and having an ally or someone to collaborate with, someone you can trust to talk about your insecurity until it goes away, because you're just doing it.
Right. Well, what you said, male allies, female alliance, and male allies are 2 of the that we're seeing in the most advancement for women, is those 2 areas. So you had an ally on the board, but did you feel when you got this position on the board, did you feel you had the imposter syndrome, or you kind of in the back of your head, but you fought against it because
I felt uncomfortable because I have had leadership positions throughout my life, but this was way next level. Like, this is, under the purview of the SEC and all kinds of different things that we don't even think about. I suddenly can't talk about the stock anymore because there's a whole bunch of things. And I'm not just representing me at this point in time. I'm out in the world representing the company that's rapidly growing, and all the other real estate companies are firing arrows at. So I didn't feel the imposter syndrome. However, there was a really funny time at one of our EXP gatherings, maybe a year into it. Someone said to me, "How did you get on the board?" And I was like, I applied just like everyone else. But what I should have said is, "How do you think I got here?" That would have been a funnier answer, because the implication, I'm not sure if the implication was I didn't know what I was doing, but I did know what I was doing, but I had a lot of extreme discomfort in this more visible, with all this oversight, big decisions. That was, that was a little scary, but I settled in.
It's one of the things I think you said is really interesting is that you use the word uncomfortable, right? Which is that we should feel uncomfortable sometimes when we're stretching and growing.
Yes.
It doesn't always mean we feel unworthy.
Yes, exactly. Right. Yes, I was definitely in learning mode. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I was in, this is all brand new. And I love to tell people, get out of your comfort zone. In fact, I have a t-shirt that says your comfort zone will kill you. So
yes.
I wear it working out, but
I always say to grow, we have to get comfortable feeling uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Right. And it doesn't always mean we're an imposter. It just means we're uncomfortable with, right. But so it's those beliefs in our head that we have to challenge.
Yep.
I was going to say part of imposter syndrome, I think, especially as a younger woman, is getting to that, like you said, the learning curve, the growing phase, and that uncomfort, but immediately your brain telling you like you're uncomfortable, that means you're not qualified, or you're uncomfortable, like you're doing something wrong. And that's not always true. And I think that's so difficult, especially for younger people to overcome that, or people new to an industry, or Susie doing something huge, like being a part of a board, being the first female member, like that's remarkable, but your brain giving you that second, like, maybe not. That's such a part of imposter syndrome.
I love that, Kimberly. Well, while you have the floor, let's go to you.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I was a stay-at-home mom and COVID started, and I was like, I'm going to get my real estate license. I'll do a couple deals, make some extra money. It'll just be for fun. And when I was started on a primarily male team, and there just wasn't a ton of support. There wasn't a ton of influence. They weren't very helpful. And I was so like distraught. Like, am I doing something wrong? Am I making them frustrated? Are they mad at me? Did I mess something up for them? And I think the imposter syndrome was just pounding on me constantly. And finally leaving that team and going out on my own, I connected with my state broker and asked him, like, did I mess this up? And he was like, girl, you're killing it. What are you talking about? No. He's like, you deserve to be doing what you're doing. You're so good at this. People love what you're doing. Don't stop. Push harder. And I was like, oh, well, all right. And then that just clicked. And our state broker was new at that point. He was our newest state broker. And he's still our state broker, and he's phenomenal. And our staff here within EXP in New Mexico is incredible, super hands-on and very helpful. But I just think like taking a step back and almost like asking, like, am I in the right spot? Should I quit? Is this not for me? And having someone on the outside be like, no, you're doing okay. You have to flounder around a little bit to get into it. And I mean, that was one of the biggest challenges. And I'm so grateful that I didn't just quit when I was scared and thought I should.
Well, Kimberly, I love what you said. Like, I don't know what it is about. Often we women go, did I do something wrong?
Right.
Right. Women tend to go internal.
Oh, yeah.
Men tend to go external. It's someone else's fault. And this is generalizing, of course. It's not all. Yeah. Women tend to be, if there's a problem, I must have done something wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And so then that's the thing we need to blow up in our head, right? It's like, wait a minute, you did the perfect thing. You went and asked an ally to give you, because your assumption that you did it, you must have done something wrong, right?
Right. Well, now I literally, like, I'll have listing brokers text me and say, hey, let's talk about these inspection objections. And immediately my brain is like, they're mad at you. They're upset. You wrote too many things. Something's wrong. And I literally have to like out loud in a mirror be like, no one is mad at you. You're doing your job. It's okay. And if they are mad, it's okay if they're mad. You're doing your job.
Yeah.
And I have to like step into that, like, whew, it's okay. Like, let people feel their feelings, however those feelings are. That's not my responsibility. I'm going to keep doing what I need to do to best represent myself and my clients and my business. And I'll call them and they're not mad. And they're like, this is a lot less than I expected, or these were so well written. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I thought you were going to be really mad. They're not. And I love it. But I love to tell myself,
I love it.
I'm not in trouble.
Okay, girls, women, what is it about us that we think if something goes awry, someone's mad at us, or we did something wrong. And so we make that assumption in our head often, not always, right? I don't want to make sweeping generalities here, but I can't tell you how many times I have done that where someone doesn't return a text or an email or something, and I'm for sure that I did something wrong or they're mad at me. Right?
Yeah. It's the negative self-talk most of the time. 9 times out of 10, it's what we're saying to ourselves that's setting our mindset in the wrong direction. So most of the time, we just have to stop and change our language, change the way we embrace ourselves most of the time. Throw the perfection gene out the window. Throw the goal of perfection out the window and just do it. Take any opportunity, take opportunities, even if it's a fail. We need an opportunity. We need an activity. We need an action so that we can fail at something, have an example of what not to do, and then do something else. But just having an opportunity to jump in there the way that we want to jump in, the way that we feel is a good way to jump in, sometimes helps our mindset.
Totally. Well, I love how you, Nikia, we're going to go to you now, but I just want to grab, because you said something really important about perfectionism. Part of when we don't feel worthy, we have to be perfect. We have to make it all right. Right. And so I love that you brought that up. That is I would say, gets in the way of a lot of women's happiness.
Yes.
Right. Because we feel I can't do it all. And if I do, I take on more than I should, and it has to be perfect. So I just wanted to pull that out. And that's one of the things that we reach for, grace, giving ourselves grace. So I want to go to you now to your thoughts. More, you've already given us some great thoughts, but more on your story.
So me, I'm a challenger. I challenge myself most, but I also challenge the outside world. So I don't like the word no. I don't like to be told no. I don't like negative talk, basically. So I try to change things into positivities. I have so many examples. I think narrowing down to one is servant leadership. Oftentimes, we as women, we take volunteer leader positions a lot, right? And then when we get the opportunity for a paid leadership position, that's when we kick in the doubt. We move forward with the servant leadership. We use our voice. We create networks. We do all of the work required as a volunteer. And we do it gracefully and we do it well. And as soon as we have the opportunity for a paid leadership position, that's when we kick in the negative self-talk. So I found myself doing that back in 2017. And I was president in line to be president of the Women's Council of Realtors. I was in line to be president of my local board, right? And that was servant leadership. That was volunteering. And then the brokerage I was at came to me and asked me to be a broker manager, a vice president, right? And I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. And then you know what? The president of the company reminded me that I've just been through all of this leadership training at my state board. I went to the Leadership Academy for Maryland and their association, their realtor association, right? He reminded me I did that. He reminded me that I'm president-elect of Women's Council. He's like, you're already a leader. Why don't you step in to a different type of leadership? And that's where the male allies come in. Sometimes we think women that we're not qualified, and then a male comes in and reminds us or reassures us that, hey girl, you got this. I will hold your hand. I'll actually walk you through this. I'll be there to support you. I'll find you some more support. You want another woman to support you, so I'll put you with another woman, but let me take your hand right now and walk you into this leadership position, and then you got it from there. So really, we have to embrace other opportunities. We take one, but will we take that second one? And that's where we got to go. We have to keep going and keep taking opportunities, even if it's like climbing a ladder is what we feel like it's climbing a ladder. But sometimes it's actually a better opportunity, and we'll be fine. So we have to just remind ourselves, give negative self-talk, take that hand and move forward is what I believe helps us.
No, Nakia, you're so right. You know that you all know that research where we've talked about this for many years, which is if a job is posted and it has 10 items, right? Women will they'll have 9 and they'll say, I'm not ready, right?
Yeah.
And men will have 2 and they're like, oh, I can do that. And that's been a long time study, right? So we need, like you said, Nikki, we got to shake that up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I've seen in leadership in companies is the head of HR at Starbucks. I did some work with them a few years ago, and it was a woman head of HR, and she would go to high potentials, women who were saying, no, I'm not ready. And she'd say, oh, you're ready and you're going to do it. and I'm going to support you. Right? Oh no,
Yep.
You are ready.
We call that voluntold. We call that voluntold. Someone has to voluntold us all the time, right?
Oh, I love that. That's it. I haven't heard that. That is a perfect. That's what we need to do. That's our women alliances, right? We need to voluntold. Voluntel.
Yeah, voluntel.
Noor, we're excited to hear from you.
Yeah, well, I'm very excited to be here. And just talking about imposter syndrome, when I was asked to even be on this panel, I was like, are you sure this message is for me? Did you want me to be here? Are you sure? Like, I'm happy to join, but because I think that there's always self-doubt, right? Like I'm a chronic overthinker. I will literally overthink every part and aspect of everything I do, whether it's personal or professional. I am on the communications team. I have a communications background. The majority of PR firms that I've worked at are 90% female, but the people at the top are majority male. So even when you are working, you kind of see like, okay, I'm going to hit a ceiling at some point because most of the C-suite's male, or, there's the finance, the CEOs, they're all male and they all sit in our firms. And you're just like, okay, this is the reality. Maybe it's one, but as I went from agency to agency, I'm like, oh, this is the norm. This is very interesting. This is not something that I want for me. Like I want to be able to kind of keep going. So I think, allyship, partnership, those are extremely important. And the more that you kind of move around in your career, you see that that's not always the case and that there are opportunities for women. And I think that that's really great to see. For me, with imposter syndrome, I'm definitely an overthinker, but Nakia, what you said about changing your narrative, I think is so important because now I'm trying to come into things that I do with a what if mindset to an even if mindset. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to change even how I think about things. I'm like, okay, well, even if I'm not the right person, or even if I'm going to stumble, I'll still learn something and that's okay. So it's really shifting the mindset. Because when I started my career, I had never heard of imposter syndrome. I had no idea what that meant. And I think that you kind of just go on your daily lives not knowing and like having self-doubt and feeling alone. And then like, oh, that's imposter syndrome. And I'm like, oh, Google, what is imposter syndrome? Like, oh, yes, that's me for sure. Other people feel this way. And that's where allyship is so important. And that's where I feel is helped me throughout my career too, is having these conversations with my peers with, you know, more junior people that are coming in and saying, hey, you know what, it's okay if you're feeling this way, and this is how we're going to get through it. Because a lot of people do think that they're alone. And I think it's important to have those conversations and bring it to the table, because if you don't, that self-doubt, that fear, that's just going to keep building and perpetuating. We want to actually break that cycle for, you know, women who are coming into the workforce. We don't want people to feel like that anymore.
Right.
So that's how I've taken it, but it's definitely that mind shift. And, you know, I've been working for about 15 years in the business, but I still have that, you know, even that self-doubt last week. Are you sure you want me on? I'm happy to, but really,
why should I be on that panel? Right. Yeah. Like, no, we want you on this panel.
Yeah.
Right. That's why we have these conversations, why it's so important even now at EXP, right? How do we have these conversations to bring, I would call it a crazy check. You know, we have these feelings like, that's crazy. Let's have this crazy check and support women supporting women. And I want to go back to one of the things you just said, which is really important, which is how we overthink, when we overthink, right? And I saw a quote the other day, which stuck with me, which was, overthinking strangles possibility. We overthink, we over, right? And that goes back to perfectionism too. Perfectionism. Yeah. You could just put that word in. Perfectionism strangles possibility.
Yeah.
And right. So it's just, I think it's something I'm glad you all have brought up really important points in your own journeys that are so relevant to everything that we all struggle with.
Yeah.
Can I just say, Nakia, you mentioned failing, and it immediately made me think my grandmother, my whole life, I'm primarily male cousins, primarily uncles, a lot of men in my family, but they're all so amazing and helpful. But my grandmother being like the first female grandchild, she used to tell me, you have to fail forward. You have to fail forward. And like, even when you said that, that just clicked in my brain that like, when you fail, it's not necessarily a back step. Sometimes it's failing into something and moving on, instead of like, we imagine ourselves failing and that's like a dead end road, we're done. But a lot of times it's just a lesson and opportunity for us to just push through that was so, I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. It's all about the reframe. Right?
Yeah.
Everything is the reframe. And you have to, all successful people will tell you the many times they skin their knees and fail. If you don't put your hand up, you never raise your hand, you know, then if you want to stay comfortable, you're going to be average.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Comfort is average. But any of us that want to grow in our lives, build a business, you know, go up the ladder in any organization are going to get your hand slapped sometimes, get backwards with a relationship, whatever. And so how we think about failure, you know, is, I'll tell you guys one quick little story. When I ran a women's center at Bentley University, and it was students go there to get their finance accounting degrees. And a young woman came to see me one day. She was 19 and she'd failed her accounting class. And she came and she was really distraught about it. And I said, but wait a minute, are you here at Bentley because you want to be an accountant? She goes, well, yes. I said, but why do you want to be an accountant? Well, my mother is a partner at one of the big four. Okay, but do you want to be an accountant? She said, actually, no. I go, well, then failing your accounting class test is the best news ever, because at 19 years old, you already have data on your road to you, you know, on your authentic self. And she was like, so I said, this is the best, that you got a D on your accounting is the best news ever. So now what are you going to do with your beautiful, precious life?
That rings
finish your degree. And so that's right. So it's all, I always say, precious information on the way to our authentic selves.
Yeah. Because my sister's actually an accountant. So my parents wanted me to be an accountant. I had never taken an accounting class, but I had to, I went into university majoring in accounting and I had no idea what I was doing. And I didn't want to do it. And then within the first 3 months, I dropped it. And I was like, I'm changing my degree. I'm going to do something in marketing. That's what I want to do. And it was one of like the first times I made a choice and I paved my own road. Just like that Oprah quote, it is paving your own road. And doing something a little bit different than what my family had in terms of expectations. So I've continued to do that, bits and pieces. I'm building the road as I go. But I kind of take impulsive choices, and I try not to be paralyzed by my own fear of
Right.
those choices. I try to like see it through, and then what happens happens. But it's a mindset, and it's a huge shift, and
Right.
it's still scary. And some people are like, oh, you're fearless. You just do whatever you want. Like you can do things that we can't. And I'm like, well, I'm still terrified by it, but I don't want to be paralyzed by my own fear and regret not trying. And I think that that's so important. And I don't think anyone can really teach you that, but I think people can support you in that, and maybe not understand it, but help support your decisions. But it is something I think within you that you have to uncover, whether that is through talking to other people, just really identifying what it is that you want from yourself. But I've done a lot of unlearning in my life as well. So I've done a lot of learning, but I've also done a lot of unlearning. And I think that that's key in the process to trying to get through imposter syndrome.
I love that unlearning. We have to sometimes unlearn. Susie, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry to take the conversation back, but I feel like we've been talking in the details, and I think there's a really important thing that we've all been talking about here. We talked about allies. We talked about people, guys, men, people that have helped us move forward in our discomfort. But, the one thing that you and I talked about, Betsy, before, and I think this is because it's also new for women to be talking about leadership out loud, open kimono with each other about the discomfort that we've had. And I really think the key to pulling each other up is the female alliances that we have, and the organization that we're trying to build within EXP and even with the outside of EXP. It's awesome. We know that there are male allies, but we as women, I'm sorry to say, sometimes we have a scarcity mentality.
Yep.
And we think I is limited, and we're in competition with each other, and we are our own worst enemies in moving the ball forward. And, that's the one thing that stuck out in our conversation. We should be talking about what we're doing right now, and we should be doing this on a regular basis so that any woman watching now or 3 months from now can learn from what we're talking about today, so that we get through the glass ceiling faster by helping each other up.
Yes.
Men don't compete against each other. Even within our company, we have this model where there's an extra perk of revenue share. Men who are not even related to each other in those lines help each other crush the learning curve. We should be doing the same thing. And so that's one thing that my kind of mission is, to help other women learn these things faster, because it's not a limited, it's abundant pie. There's plenty.
Absolutely.
I love that so much. I think that I remember in high school, the people who were the meanest were other girls. The people who were shutting down things that I wanted to do were other females. Even in the real estate industry, the people who make the snarkiest remarks or treat each other the worst are other females. And it's like, take a step back, girl, we're in this together. We're not in a fight. We're in this to help each other. And if I win, you win too, because like Noor said, she's slowly building this road. Think of all the people, men and women, who don't have that road yet, but now because of you have access to that, have that ability to shift from what if to even if, stepping into that. I love you so much and I want you to win. And when you do win, I'm not threatened, because even if I'm not winning, my time is coming, but your time is now. And I'm so excited for you. I love that so much, Susie.
Yeah. I think I learned early because I attended an all-girls high school. So I learned this support system, this collaboration, this being in women's networks or girls' networks, or just hanging out with girls all the time, learning with girls. I learned that so early on that I think it's instilled in me, and that could possibly, I never examined my thought process between what I'm really interested in. I'm really interested in impacting women's lives, supporting women, mentoring women. But I never thought until today, when you just said that, where I learned how to support women, where I learned sisterhood, because Kimberly, I am the only granddaughter in my family as well until my daughter. So I'm the only woman in my family under my mom, between my mom and my daughter. I'm the only woman. And all of our generations, all of our entire family on my mom's side, cousins, everybody, I'm the only woman. So I learned how to support other women, how to love other women, how to love being around, because I'm also an only child. So I didn't have any sisters either. So by attending the girls high school, I think instilled in me a lot when it comes to supporting women, impacting women, mentoring, even looking for a mentor. I think sometimes we are attracted to female mentors. And sometimes they're much older than us. I took a look at my life. My mentors have been much older than me. That each one has been an age where they could be my mother. Okay. So when I took a look at that, I was thinking about a mother's love. That's what everybody craves, especially women, right? We crave that mother's love. So if we can have that mother's love at home, and then we can go to work or these realtor organizations or just in the day-to-day business, if we can also have that mother's love at work too, I think that makes a big difference. So Susie is 100% correct. We need female mentors. We need female coaches. We need to be around like-minded females, or even females who we see ourselves as becoming. Somebody that's watching right now always wanted to be on the board of directors, Susie. And when you told your story, now they know that it's a possibility for them. There's an opportunity out there that they should go for it. So with us becoming impactful women to other women, it's definitely going to set the future in a different direction than what it was projected to be in, right?
Absolutely.
We did a session last week for Women's History Month at EXP on female alliances.
Yes.
And it was really a great conversation about, do you have your posse, called different things, your huddle, your posse, your fangirls that surround you to support you. And how do you, if you don't have that, then how do you grow that yourself to make sure that you have that? And win, EXP's One's Win, that's just being kicked off soon, is what that whole organization is trying to do and build, is a place for women in EXP, realtors and administration to have that girl alliance.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So important. Sometimes they also call it your board of directors, like
Yes.
your board of directors that you have, that you can always go to really give you advice, you can really lean on. And even for me personally within EXP, I've got my board of directors, strong group of females, different, they all work in different divisions within EXP, all so smart, all have different, outlooks. And I think it's so important that your allies also have a different point of view than you do, that they can kind of give you that even if perspective if you are blocked in your mind. So really, you want to make sure that your allies are not just carbon copies of you as well. You want to make sure that they are, a diverse group of women who can really help you see different aspects and different points of view to really help you shape your understanding of, what it is that you want to do next and really help you get to where you need to go.
Absolutely. You guys, one of the things too that I think is really valuable when we think about female alliances and male allies is the 5-minute mentor. So if because we always think we have to have a longer relationship with someone. Right. Sometimes you'll see someone, you'll say, oh my gosh, Nikia says, I've always wanted to be on a board. Susie, can we have a coffee? Can we have a Zoom coffee date? Can you, guide me on what the steps I need to take to someday be on EXP's board or another board like that, right? So there's ways to reach out, and we start to practice that as women, to reach out to other women. There was a study on LinkedIn to people who've never been a mentor. And the question was asked, why have you never been a mentor? And the research came back. The answer was, because I've never been asked.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
I learned recently that even within EXP, there's only like a few thousand of us out of, what is it, like over 90,000 agents and brokers with EXP now. There's only like 3,000 or 4,000 mentors who have chosen to get into the mentorship opportunity, the role within EXP. And that alone tells me that there's so many qualified people who just have not been asked yet, or like Nakia said earlier, voluntold that they need to do this. We need it. We need, especially females, we especially need women who are willing to pour into other women, into other people, what they know, how they can help build that core group. I think that's so valuable.
Yes, absolutely. Nakia, do you want to add anything about the win and what's happening there?
Sure. Well, first, before I get this thought out my brain, I want to just go with Kimberly. Sometimes people we have this thing called tap on the shoulder. So we have to tell people that this opportunity exists, right? We have to bring someone along to shadow us, to see what's going on, to understand that this opportunity is out here. So I think the mentoring program is the most untapped, if I can just probably make that a thing. It's the untapped thing. I think we as mentors, because I am a mentor, we as mentors, we haven't let other people know. And just in this thing, I created an event, an in-person event in North Carolina that was a mentorship mastermind. It was where I had some mentors that are already in the mentoring program sit on one side of the room, one side of the table. And then I had people that wanted to become a mentor sit on the other side of the table. And we all met, we talked, we shared information, we shared stories, and we helped the ones that wanted to become mentors become mentors. And that should probably be a thing.
I
Around
love
the
that so
world.
much.
Yeah,
should be
we
a
can
thing.
do that. Yeah, maybe Kimberly, your EXP Young Professionals Network can maybe make that maybe an event at EXPCon or something.
Ooh, yes.
And especially coming from, because no one's thinking that the young professionals are going to host an event to tell people how to become mentors, right? Because in our mindset, we think it's the OGs. It's the people who have been in the business for years that should be setting the standards on mentors. But a great mentor is somebody that's doing the things that you want to do and doing the things that you're doing it the way that you're probably going to do it. Right. So a young professional does want another young professional mentor. A young professional may not want a mentor that's been in the business for 25 years because their mind is already set on this way. When my mind coming in the business as a young professional is going to be open to new things and a lot of technology. And not to say, because there is a lovely group organized by Kathy Burns, actually in North Carolina, for the OGs and technology, right? She has this ongoing it's on Facebook and everywhere. So it's kind of like a matchmaking thing. And I see that, I envision that for the young professionals.
I love that. Yes, that's such a fun idea. And I agree. I know that there are quite a few young professionals who are mentors with EXP, but like you said, like we really don't go around talking about it. We don't share that very much. So I love that. Maybe we will. That's so fun.
Yeah.
And you all remember too that there's another thing where it's called reverse mentoring. So sometimes what the young professionals don't realize is sometimes, Procter & Gamble did this where their CEO said every senior leader has to have a mentor that's been with the company just 3 years.
Yeah.
So because we want to find out what's going on with you. And also, a lot about social media or something that we don't know about, right?
Right.
So it works both ways. It's like you can't lead people if you don't know them, right?
Yeah.
You can't intersect with people and if you don't know them. So I love that. But back to WIN, and then I want to switch gears real quick. That's WIN is being created and it's been there, but it's being re-evolved or rethought. And I think that's going to be a place inside WIN for mentoring.
Yeah, It's going to be the place where exactly what Susie said, where there is collaboration amongst women, where there is mentorship amongst women, where there is camaraderie amongst women, where there is training or workshops offered to help women understand that there is an opportunity, the same opportunity that's available to everyone else. We are building this out now for a big 2024 explosion into the world, right? So we're working on that right now, and we're looking to impact women, impact your life, not only at work, right? Because there is a full circle of our lives. And we're not going to just talk about business there. We're going to talk about our lives. We're going to talk about mental health. We're going to talk about sisterhood. We're going to talk about helping each other and building that out so that it becomes stronger. Or if it's not there, if you haven't seen it, we're going to show you what that looks like and what that can look like. So we are looking forward to supporting every single woman that we can find, everyone we can grab you by your hand and take you somewhere else where you have never been and where you think you can't go. We're going to change your mind. We're going to change your mindset. We're going to take you from below that line to above that line. And we're looking forward to really growing this out and really exploding into the world at EXP and in real estate, period. So we want to set an example and show how this can be done. And we want involvement. Okay. Yes. It's support, but support doesn't come without involvement. So you will hear tons and tons of information coming soon related to our EXP win. All right.
Just great. Thank you for that, because I think it's important for everyone listening that we're going to have conversations, edgy conversations like this, supportive, a place where support, like you said, mothers love.
Yeah.
Right. But also some truth telling and learning, right? Because it's also about the willingness to support each other for our go towards our authentic selves, but also where we see people, stepping in their sticky floor behaviors as well.
Yes.
So we have 15 minutes left. It's gone so fast. And I just want to go around the horn. And what else is on your mind about worthiness? Strategy, another strategy that you've used? One of the things we touch on a little bit, but I think it's really important, is the negative self-talk that we sometimes dive into. But any of the areas that you think that reframing failure, getting support, like we're talking about, but what have we missed in this conversation?
So, sorry, go Susie.
Oh, yeah. This is just, and Nakia just gave me the segue from the WIN group. My main point that I wanted to make today for all the ladies in the audience is all the things we were touching on: negative self-talk, the stories you tell yourself. We all talk about, self-love, self-love. Guess what? Mental health care is self-care.
Yes.
So I think that, there's a stigma around anyone talking to a therapist or a counselor. Especially I, spend my time on the East Coast and the West Coast. East Coast is like, if you're going to a therapist, there's something wrong with you. In California, people are like, you're not going to a therapist.
Like, who's your therapist?
Why are you not in therapy? And I realize that it's an expense for some people. If you have a Starbucks coffee habit every day, you can afford counseling, because there's an online platform. If anyone wants to message me with EXP, or just find me at susiet@exprealty.com, you can afford, it's $300 a month. You can afford it. And this is, and the reason that I like to have this conversation, it doesn't have to be when you're in crisis. You might run up against an uncomfortable situation. Why did I react this way? How can I get through just this situation? Someone can help break it down for you faster than you can do it yourself. And so I really feel like the self-care thing is super important. The self-love thing, these old tapes of I'm not worthy or perfectionism, have somebody help you crush the learning curve. You don't have to do it yourself.
Yes.
So that's my little soapbox for today.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what that's reaching for behaviors of loving yourself. And it's, I nurture myself.
Right.
Yeah.
I care for myself.
And sometimes you can't do it by yourself. If you can't see something's broken, you don't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to piggyback off of that, that kind of goes with what I was gonna share. So I have 2 young daughters. One is 6, one is 4. And ever since they were like newborn little babies, I saw an Instagram video that was like this dad having his daughter say positive affirmations in the mirror. And I was like, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that. We're gonna be really careful of what we say. And like, I remember growing up, you know, my mom or her friends talking about, oh, we need to go to the gym. Oh, we need to do this diet. Oh, I need to get my bikini body. And now having daughters, I'm like, oh my gosh, the number of people that say they look just like you, they're going to grow up to look just like you. And it's like in my brain that if I say one thing about myself that's bad, they hear that about them too. So we're so cautious in our house of like how we speak about each other, or how we speak about ourselves. But to speak on what Susie was saying, we every single night, even if it's just 2 or 3 things, have them each say something nice to each other, and then have them think about something that they love about themselves. And at first, when they were really little, it would be like, I like your hair, or you're really funny. But now it's like my oldest daughter will tell me like, I'm compassionate when my friends are in need. And I'm like, you're sick. And she's like, yeah, like my friend will have a problem and I want to help her with that. And I'm like, I love that. Or she'll say like, today my brain felt like I couldn't do it and it was really hard, but I kept trying. And I'm like, I love that. So like, yes, mental health, I think looking at yourself and instead of just seeing what you want to change or what you feel like you need to change, but thinking about all these incredible things that make you such a unique person, because there's no other Kimberly Mooney in the world.
Yes.
There's not another one, which weirdly there is another Kimberly, which I've never met another one, but she is with EXP as well, so that's one. But there's no one just like me. And I think that like focusing on how, like my mom used to have mental health days. We could have 3 a year where if we were like, I need a break from school, she would call us in sick and we would just have a mental health day doing something that made us feel relaxed or happy. And that's just, not everybody does that. And you really do need to think about how you're speaking of yourself, because that also tells others what you'll accept from them. And if you're willing to beat yourself down, then other people have the open door to do the same thing. And
I think that's really important, what you just said about how we speak about ourselves. Is to catch ourselves, right? When we say that stuff like, oh my God, you're so dumb, or I can't believe you did that. You're such an idiot. You know, we have to watch those things and give ourselves grace. And what you also said is that you're right. There's no other you, and we're all born with a package of gifts. Yep. And our job is to open that package and share those gifts with the world.
Oh yeah.
And that's our job. We're at Earth School. We're down in this planet for a short period of time to share our gifts with the world and to make a difference. So you said that really perfectly.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know how they tell us that we have to have compassion for the world or compassion for others? We forget about self-compassion.
Yes.
Right? And that's our number one gift to ourselves. Besides those mental health days, besides those therapy, self-care appointments, is self-compassion. And that leads to changing from the negative self-talk to the empowering self-talk, to our affirmations, right? I love just sitting here talking to you guys has my brain spinning. In North Carolina, we're hosting a Women's History Month event on Sunday. We're doing a Sunday brunch. It's in an office environment, but it's called Confidence on Camera. And it's not all about just being on this camera right here, being able to talk, but it's about being able to eliminate the negative self-talk, or what can I do to build confidence for myself? Because literally we as entrepreneurs and salespeople, if we aren't together, then how can we help others realize their dreams, reach their goals? How can our businesses run when we're a mess? So more important than being a top salesperson, you have to be the number one self-confident person, the number one self-reassuring person, and the number one self-confident person. And then you can go on to win all of these industry awards or be listed in the top 100 in the world. But if you aren't top one in your world, right? Why? I say, why do you want to be number one at your company? Why do you want to be number one in your state? Why do you want that? You should want some self-compassion, some self-confidence. Using the word self is really not selfish anymore. You know, we've been told that thinking of self first is selfish. Not anymore. Like Susie said, people are like, well, who's your therapist? You know, right now, the word self needs to be in our business plan, needs to be in our life plan, needs to be in our goals. And that self goes right along with restricting access, you know, having boundaries. Boundaries need to be in our business plan.
Yes.
We have to change our mindset in order to change our business plan, right? And our mindset is going to come with confidence, which totes the line sometimes. Sometimes people think we think too much of ourselves, but yes, we do. We have to celebrate our achievements. We have to think highly of ourselves. We have to be confident in order to be on camera, in order to be taking the lead, in order to take leadership positions, in order to volunteer to be a leader. We really have to work on self. And that's why I love self-improvement. I love the self-development, right? I love all of that. That word self has become my favorite word as I've gotten older.
Yeah. Well, self-knowledge, you know, self-knowledge is where you start, right? And leadership starts with self-knowledge and self-care is a big part of it. Just want to touch on confidence, the word confidence. It kind of intersects, right? With when we think about worthiness and imposter syndrome and confidence. Well, what's interesting about confidence, and the Confidence Code was a book written by Katty Kay and Claire Shipman. Highly recommend it. They very successful journalists who didn't feel confident went on this kind of, you know, discovery and research and interviewed all of these successful women who also struggled a little bit with confidence. But what they found in their research was the way to get more confident is to take action.
Yeah.
Right? No matter what happens with that action then gets the ball rolling, more action, right? And so that's where people, when they say, oh, I'm not confident, so they don't do anything, that's when they miss the boat. So Nora, did you have something more one more thing you wanted to say?
Yeah, just hearing what everyone is talking about, something that came to my mind was that, and I don't know if I'm thinking maybe everyone's heard this from an ally, from a friend, I wish you could see yourself the way that I see you. And that comes from that positive self-talk, right? So I think that we're probably all really strong and really great in supporting our networks and telling our friends, you've got this, you're so amazing, you can do X, Y, and Z. But then when it comes to ourselves, we're like, well, I can't do it, I'm scared, I don't know. Like I can always, you know, and it's about shifting from that, you know, what if to even if. And really taking that positive self-talk that you give to others and pouring it into yourself first, because the more you pour into yourself, the more you can pour into others. So I
love that. What if, even if.
Yeah.
That's a great phrase for people to take out, right? What if, even if. That's beautiful. Susie, do you have something? You started us off. Do you want to have the final thought as our?
I just, you know, I'm thinking about what we started with, and something that Noor just said about taking action. And that's, you know, that's actually failing forward, all those things. That's sort of how I've done life. Feel the fear and do it anyway. And, you know, I like to think that, you know, we can get in our heads and think about what the worst case scenario is going to be if we try to do this thing. And so far, I haven't been able to predict the daily numbers and win the lottery that way. So why do I think do this and predict what's going to be the outcome, right? I just can't. So it's just, you know, I could look stupid. I'll get over it. Yeah. You know, I published my first article on Substack last week because I joined a group that said, get it out there. And I just literally right before I walked out the door of the church, I'm like, here it goes. And I'm not going to look for at least 2 hours. And, you know, and everyone can do that. It's just literally get it out there. We need to hear what you have to say. We want to hear what you have to say. We can help each other grow, from all of our different perspectives. So just keep feeling the fear and do it anyway.
Well, I think, to circle back to how we started this conversation is that just because you feel uncomfortable doesn't mean you don't have confidence, doesn't mean you're unworthy, right? It's just that I'm uncomfortable because this is new. And reach out for an ally, a male ally, a female alliance, a girlfriend, get your crazy check, and I think that's because we don't always have to think that, wow, there's something wrong with me because I feel uncomfortable, right? We should feel uncomfortable when we're reaching for growth.
Growing. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So you all have been amazing. I've loved this conversation. We could go on for another hour. Can we have the final slide? I want to leave you with just a cute cartoon. And as you all leave this session, I just love this. What are you throwing away? Oh, just some old ideas and beliefs that are taking up too much space. So to those listening, get rid of those old ideas. Use the worthy meter as a guide for you to say, hey, when I'm down in hustle behaviors, how can I reach up for maybe the self-care or the confidence, and know it's a journey, and know that the women at EXP are here to support you. Be part of WIN when it's launched. And I really have enjoyed this conversation. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you all. Thank you, Betsy.
Thank you. Thank you so much.